Hi, we're talking about can the gyrotonic system increase bone density today? Because this conversation has exploded in my DMs recently. And just before we get started, I want to take a moment to invite you to my free workshop this Saturday. It's live, it's online. You'll also get a replay for 7 days. It's called The Source Awakens, and it's all about training proprioceptive awareness and building integral strength in the body. So you can find the information about that in the link in my bio. And now let's dive in. Today, we're talking about bone density exercises, specifically in the context of gyrotonic instruction. So I've been getting DMs recently and joining in conversations online where a number of gyrotonic instructors are interested to see how we can use this system to help to build bones. This is a really salient conversation right now because menopause is for many of us personally. I mean, I'm in it. And there are many trainers out there who've also either already gone through it or are experiencing it or are working with a population that is now going through menopause, which is a shift in the hormone levels for women. And as estrogen drops in our system, so does our bone density for reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. But basically, it's a hormonal shift that affects how our body is able to build itself back up. That doesn't mean that is the flat out end, though. Just because the chemical makeup of your body has shifted in a way that doesn't naturally build bone like it used to, doesn't mean that's a done deal. You can actually mechanically change those conditions to send your body the signals it needs to keep rebuilding bone cells. Now, primarily, this is a mechanical force thing, and it's going to be done through the muscles and through types of exercise. I'm just going to jump right into it. Your body needs to be challenged in order to grow, just like your brain. Just like doing the crossword has been shown to mitigate against cognitive decline, so challenging your body will help you to continue to push forward, to build strength, to build density, as opposed to unbuilding yourself, which is what happens if you don't challenge your body. Now, the equation is very simple. I'm going to jump ahead and then jump back. Basically, if you want to give your body the healthy stressors it needs to build your bones, which will have an effect of building your muscles, you need to be doing exercises that you can do 5 or 6 times maximum. So that's a pretty heavy load. Typically, this is going to be something like progressive overload strength training, which is different than bodybuilding. It's literally lifting weights to the point where you've added so much weight that you can only do it 5 or 6 times max. Now, for someone who hasn't ever lifted heavy, that could actually be just lifting a 5-pound weight, right? But as soon as you got the hang of that, you would need to start progressively overloading your body. So that's what that means. There are 2 other ways that you can build your bone that have been proven scientifically. The next one is impact training. So that would be jumping, landing on your body, landing on your feet, landing on your bones, giving them that kind of stimulus. And then there's also vibration plates, and there's also machines that just send vibration into the bone, and there's pretty good evidence that those also help to build bones. I see those as a great supplement to a gyrotonic workout if you wanted to pepper in other elements to build your bones during the gyrotonic workout. Basically, the key is ongoing challenge for your body. So, can the gyrotonic method build bone density? Not really. Not on its own. It's excellent for other aspects of aging. And this is not at all meant to disparage the gyrotonic system in any way. I think it's one of the most brilliant systems out there. But the way that the system is constructed, the way the machines are constructed, is to actually offload pressure on our bodies so that we can create the spaciousness, the expansion for the synovial fluid to move through and lubricate our joints. It has coordinative benefits. It has incredible brain building benefits. And yes, you can load the equipment. And yes, in the beginning stages of someone building strength, you might be able to affect bone density by loading your gyrotonic equipment heavier through a workout. And certainly, no matter what, that's going to be a really good thing for you to do for the body. There is a lot of evidence that strength training also improves your mood. It improves your grounding. I know for me, if I'm feeling off, if I get to my barbells, it takes me maybe half an hour and I'm feeling great again. I feel like I have control. I can do the same thing with my gyrotonic workout. I'm going to give you a couple of examples now of how I might do that. So I might, if I were doing arch curl, for example, let's drop these things down. I did not have the time to set up my equipment before putting on this live. So I could take my handles, right? And of course, if you have a regular tower, you could do it facing away or facing towards the machines. I'm just going to show you on one side to save time. And I've got I've got about 30 pounds on my machine right now. So I could do a level 2 variation. You know, I could put the straps on the handles here and then take myself into an arch curl sequence. And then I would have some resistance. And I would work my arms, right? It's pulling through my back. It's pressing out. It's also working the abs. So that would become an effective way to warm up my body. And if I had less strength than I do, that might give some bone building effect. But here's the difference, is that this is really global and the muscles are engaging along these long spiraling lines. Now, if we want to affect the bones, what we want to do is squeeze the muscles around the bones to get that stimulus in there. Compression isn't necessarily a piece of the gyrotonic system naturally. Even if I'm doing hamstrings, certainly I can load it heavier, right? I could load my hamstring weight up to like 50 pounds, maybe even more. But if you look at how this is working, the weight is actually supporting my leg as it goes out and down, and it's lifting my leg as it goes up. So I'm working against more resistance, but it's not having that direct impact of squeezing into the bone and giving those signals to your cells to rebuild. So again, cycling back, in the short term, if you're starting off with creating a strength program for someone who actually wants to combat osteoporosis, if they have osteoporosis or osteopenia, the gyrotonic system, loading it heavier, might be a great place to start. But ultimately, there is no way around the fact that if you actually want to increase your bone density, to reverse the process of osteoporosis, move it to osteopenia, and then eventually have that DEXA scan turn back normal results, and this has happened for people, you need to be doing progressive overload strength training, impact on the body, and possibly including some vibration. So I'm going to show you my setup here. Let's take a look around my room so you can see how I work it. I've got my gyrotonic equipment. I've got a lot of weight options off the back. Usually I have more weights hiding behind my machine. And then we have this setup over here. I have a Galileo, which is a medical grade vibration plate proven to affect bone density. It has the G forces, which is basically the power, and also the frequency, the speed, that will change your bone density. And I have my barbell set up right in front of it, and I've got a bunch of weights around my machine. So I'll typically warm up in one system and then go to the other system because they're incredibly complementary. So let me give you an example here. I'm just going to grab a weight and show you what's called a Jefferson curl. So this is just 25 pounds. It's not that big of a deal for me, but it's enough to load the body. And if I stand holding the weight, it pulls me down more to the ground. I could even do a little impact training here, starting with dropping my heels on the floor. It gets that thud going through my body that sends signals to my bone cells to rebuild. Now, example of a Jefferson curl. It's basically flexion through each vertebrae, rolling all the way down until you're in a hamstring stretch. And then you pick yourself back up, continuing to let your arms hang. And I'm pushing down through my legs as I do that to roll all the way back up to standing. So this is just a typical weightlifting move. But my gyro folk, did you notice how much that looks like standing on all fours? Basically, when you add weight, it helps you immediately discover the fifth line. So no longer do you have to give people a bunch of cues to discover how to organize around your bones. As soon as you add load, it's obvious. So oftentimes when I'm teaching someone the gyrotonic system, I will start them with trying a few Jefferson curls first to feel how the body organizes within. And the muscles organize to also create length around the vertebrae, decompressing your spine as they're squeezing it. So you can see how those correlate. When you're doing strength training, it's important to warm up first, right? To prepare your body for whatever you're going to ask it to do, be that back squats, deadlifts, presses. The gyrotonic system can also be a lovely way to get the body organized and fluidly moving first, especially because it has a lot of rotational motions in it. So there's less rotational motions if you're actually doing strength training because that's primarily linear. We are organizing to move against gravity, lifting weights. So that line is going to be more up than out or twisting. But there certainly are rotational components to every movement we make as a human. So if you get some of this going on, and then you start going into this, your body is really happily prepared and it can recruit all of its strength around even those linear motions. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it, Alina. Just checking through again. I want to move on to one really great question that I got. I was talking with one of the trainers on DMs and it was about impact training. And I said, jumping is also really good if you want to affect bone density. And she asked, could I load the jumping stretching board? And would that help? Unfortunately, no. So when we're talking about jumping to affect the bones, we want to send that thud through our entire system. You actually want to land heavy. So if I'm preparing for ballet jumps, I'm landing light. I want to get air. That's minimizing the impact of my body on the earth. It's a great spring to get off, but it's less of a thud inside. They're designed for that. So if you want to be affecting bone density, jumping on either a Pilates reformer or a jumping stretching board is the antithesis of that. It's good for other things. Here's a great prep for people who might need to build some strength before they can land heavy, because that can be jarring for a system that might be misaligned or just not ready for it. Have someone sit. Have someone stamp their feet. Get them used to that much. And wow, what a great prep for shivering. What if you did this for a while and then did that? and then had them get into shivering, engaging around the bones, and moved them in to your hamstring series. Do you see how this is working? Checking in here. I'm going to go all the way down. What about the risk of performing loaded spinal flexion for osteoporosis and osteopenia sufferers? Yeah, if you do research online about osteoporosis, and unfortunately a lot of it's kind of vague, they'll say avoid rotation, avoid this and that with the spine, also avoid forward bending, and like avoid certain yoga poses. Unfortunately, they also say to avoid things that could be really good for your body if you want to reverse the process of osteopenia or osteoporosis. The key is to do everything with guidance and awareness first. So as far as rotation goes, if someone actually has degeneration in their bones, probably not doing things like this to start with, but ultimately, if I'm walking, my spine is rotating. If I am putting away a dish, there is rotation in my body. So supporting that in reasonable ways is very healthy, and then beginning to load it is also very healthy. Each person is going to have their own individual set point of what is a challenge and what is safe for them. For someone, maybe picking up a 5-pound weight is enough, but you know what? Your bag of groceries weighs more than that, and so does your cat. So most people are already loading their bodies in reasonable ways throughout the day, whether they recognize that or not. We should all be lifting heavier than we are and continually pushing our limits forward, whether that is 10 pounds to 12 pounds or 80 to 100 pounds. Still Places said, same with the trampoline then, I guess. In relation to bone building, 100%. Trampoline is great for other things, but there's no impact. That's not going to build your bones. I am not going to get into vibration plates now because I 100% advocate for the Galileo. There are many other plates out there on the market that borrow their research, and each one may or may not work for bone density. That's a whole other conversation. Someone else asked in the DMs, what if I load the Wingmaster on the LEU? So, Wingmaster movements, certainly great for warming up the body. How much are we doing this? How much are we squeezing into the bones? Depends on the quality of movement we have. It's probably going to work in the beginning stages, but ultimately it's not going to be as effective as using a barbell or using heavy weights. And there's going to be an endpoint to how much it can do before it changes your gyrotonic workout so much that in an effort to make a gyrotonic workout, a bone building workout, it no longer has the quality that makes it gyrotonic. One other piece that I wanted to bring in about the quality of a gyrotonic workout is a lot of the movement initiates at the distal, that's the furthest away edges of our body, the furthest away from the spine. So I'm just gonna grab a 5-pound weight here. This weight weighs a lot less here than it does here. If I'm moving around like this, it's heavier than if I were moving it here. That also means I can't add as much load when it's out here. So if I wanted to load my gyrotonic workout to the point where I was only able to do about 5 reps before I exhausted, my gyrotonic workout probably will become more and more towards center, losing the quality of what the Gyrotonic method is. Conversely, if I simply do some real strength training, activate the 5th line, squeeze the muscles into the bones, and then move to the Gyrotonic machine, I have energy and power that wasn't available previously to perform my Gyrotonic workout. And I can use those endorphins and that circulation to then create quality, balance, coordination, and all of the other beautiful aspects that the Gyrotonic system offers for people. Checking for comments or questions. How can you tell if someone has undiagnosed osteoporosis? You can't. It's guesswork. You should get a DEXA scan to see, but also you can safely assume that if you're working with a woman who is perimenopausal or has gone through menopause, there is a strong risk that she will be developing osteoporosis or osteopenia, because that's just how female bodies work with the hormones. So you should be adding strength training. And ultimately for everyone, strength training is a good thing to have for your physical health as you age, because you're going to be better prepared for if you do fall. You'll be able to handle that impact. You'll be able to lift heavier things throughout your life. You're less at risk for becoming infirm, less at risk for having hip replacements, because you maintain the health of your body. And within that, the gyrotonic system is an excellent addition to keep the body fluid, coordinated, to challenge your brain. I think that's pretty much it. I did want to make sure I invite you all to my free class that I'm offering this Saturday. It's called The Source Awakens. It's not about osteoporosis. It is about developing your own unique approach to teaching and teaching what people need to learn, seeing that in their bodies, hearing their goals, and then adapting exercises to relate to their goals. Also teaching principles from the inside out. So as opposed to teaching someone to perform a shape, how to give them the feeling that the exercise is going to give them first, and have them create their movement around that feeling. Be that strength, grace, precision, control, shooting the hoop, doing parkour, whatever it is. So I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any more questions, throw them in the comments of the replay, or send me an email or a DM, and I'll answer you personally. Have a beautiful day.